Hello, Clarets, and welcome back to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. After what feels like a lifetime since our last Premier League game, we're going to have a brief look back at that disappointing trip to Villa Park before the main event of previewing this week's crucial game against Leeds at Turf Moor. Joining me tonight is the main man, Dave Statman Roberts, and we also have a special guest opposition view from over the Pennines as Leeds fan Aidan joins us to discuss Leeds' start to the season and his thoughts going into Saturday's crunch game. To start the show, though, we're going to have the thoughts of Richard Steele on that Villa game. Take it away, Rich.
Hi everyone, Rich Steele here from the No Nay Never podcast. So just looking back to the Villa game. So it's just a little bit of a damp squib, weren't it? We just never really got going in the game, just seemed to lack intensity. The goals that were scored against us were far too easy. The first goal you can't believe in that space in midfield. There was like Laurent, Walker and Twanzebe all pushed into the one position, kind of onto that side of the pitch. Cullen wasn't in, Cullen and Florentino got sucked in, and you kind of think somebody at some point's got to make that decision to cover and, go finish by Marlon. And then the second goal, we just never really laid a glove on him. And I suppose there's credit where we got that goal back, but even at 2-1, I know there's a bit of a stoppage in play when Buendia went down injured, but we never really looked like, we were really giving it everything. So we looked a bit of a tired performance after we've had, some tough games against, United, Liverpool and City. And I think sometimes you look forward to the international break, and I think it came at a good time for us where we can ultimately, kind of like recharge a little bit, go again, and we'll mention in the next video. I'd personally like us to go back against Leeds and Wolves the next couple of games, go back to playing forward at the back and kind of like that 4-3-3 shape that we had last season. So it's a disappointing result. We've had a decent start to the season, but you kind of feel that the next couple of games are going to be really big for us.
Thanks for that, Rich. I'll come to you first, Dave. Firstly, are you well? Have you enjoyed the break? And how did you feel after that Villa game? I think it was probably the first time this season where we left feeling a bit flat after a game.
Yeah, it was a disappointing performance, wasn't it? Obviously, 2-1 defeat in the end. It was probably flattered us slightly maybe in terms of the scoreline. But yeah, it's perhaps a good time to have another international break. We seem to have an international break after international break. I think we've got another one, haven't we, in November as well. But yeah, chance to regroup and a chance to hopefully go again this weekend.
Yeah, I think that is probably the best way to go. Start looking forward again, and a massive game at Turf Moor. Have you got some opening stats for us with our past meetings against Leeds United?
Yeah, I have. This season is just the third that Burnley and Leeds United have spent together in the Premier League, and the Clarets are yet to win any of the previous four meetings. Looking back at the two matches at Turf Moor, there was a 4-0 away win for the visitors in a rather bad-tempered behind-closed-door game. That was in May 2021, as well as a 1-1 draw early during the following season in August 2021, with fans of both sides able to be at Turf Moor on that occasion. All the four previous Premier League matches have involved managers Sean Dyche and Marcelo Bielsa in the dugouts. Of course, the two teams have met more recently in the Championship, and despite being pipped to the title agonisingly at the last moment last season, we won 1-0 at Ellen Road in September 2024, with Luca Koleosho scoring the winner, followed by a rather dour 0-0 draw at Turf Moor in January, when neither side was particularly adventurous on the day in a match that wasn't exactly the best advert for Championship football. So far this season, Leeds have picked up 8 points in their first 7 games and sit in 15th place, with Burnley trailing behind in 18th place with just 4 points. Surely this Saturday's match will be a better spectacle than the goalless draw from earlier this year.
Excellent. Not very good record in the Premier League against Leeds, have we? I didn't quite realise it was that bad. Right, now to bring in our special guest, Leeds fan Aidan. How are you doing, Aidan? Are you looking forward to the game this weekend? And I think we wanted to start by just asking about how you feel Leeds' summer transfer window's been. Obviously, we had a great ding-dong battle at the end of last season. where you agonisingly pipped us to the post.
Yeah.
But from the outside, it probably looks like you prioritise physicality, but maybe look a bit light at the top end of the pitch. Is that fair? How do you sum things up from a Summers perspective?
I'd say that is probably the feeling amongst the majority of Leeds fans. When you look at it, I think there was definitely a strategy which is quite clear from the 49ers, obviously the new ownership group that we've had since last year, with the idea of bringing in physicality, bringing in strong, tall players, and going down almost like that Brentford route that they looked to go down, signing all the Scandinavian players when they first came up. And really trying to look to build from the back. I think in terms of doing that, they've certainly managed to do that. If you look at new goalkeeper, new centre halves, replacing Junior Firpo at left back, and then obviously strengthening the midfield, that's been managed. I think what we were looking for probably as an ownership, as sort of a group of supporters, was probably just that bit of a kind of sparkle dust, if you like, on up front, which we've not managed to get. So there was a concern that would probably lead to us being a little bit flat up front. And I do think at times you've probably seen that, particularly early on in the season while the team tried to look to gel. So yeah, it's probably going to be a struggle as the season goes on in terms of the attack of it, but I can certainly see the strategy. It just looks like potentially they didn't get to finish it off.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. It's probably gone different routes with the striker options as well. Burnley going for Broha, who's probably got more potential, but Leeds going for Calvert-Lewin, who's obviously proven it in the past, but hasn't done the business for the last couple of years and suffered with injuries. But in terms of the thinking about the manager, because having won the league with 100 points,
yeah,
it seemed like you were under quite a lot of pressure. Despite having such a good season last year, what were your thoughts on that at the time, and how do you think he's adapted to and learned from his previous experiences in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a funny one, really. I think when you hear about a manager winning the title, obviously just missing out on promotion the year before, getting to Wembley, 100 points. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think something like 93 goals we scored in last season. And yet you could still somehow occasionally hear frustration around Ellen Road, particularly, it sounds silly to say, but almost like the predictability of what you get with Farkas football, which is kind of sometimes what fans look for, but then you get it and you're not quite happy with what you're getting. I think it's probably the fact that he's seen as quite conservative in the way that he plays, which sounds ironic for achieving such a high points total. But for example, the fact that you always knew you weren't going to make a substitution before the 70th minute, that's a source of great frustration amongst Leeds fans. And yeah, it's a tough one, but I think the concern was definitely that having dominated almost every team, probably fair enough, apart from yourselves last year, partially because, if we're being honest, a lot of the Championship nowadays is cannon fodder and really just show that gap that you kind of have between teams coming down from the Premier League and the parachute payments and the effect that has. And there was the concern that he'd probably try and go up this year and play the same way, which, save for the Arsenal game, thankfully he hasn't. So there has been that adaptability, and I think that's probably lent him a bit more favour amongst the supporters base at the moment. I think he deserves his chance, is the honest answer. I think he deserves his chance. He's won the title. He is definitely the 49ers man, I believe, and I don't think they're the kind of ownership group to kind of act on impulse. I think he is their man. They'll give him a chance. I think if there is a bad run in the season, I think we've got a tough run of games around December where we play Man City, we play Liverpool, we play Chelsea, I believe, back to back. I don't think that's the kind of run that would allow them to act or would cause them to act in such a manner. And the start's been good. The start has been good. I think it's been a bit of a nearly start. Really, we could be in a better position than we are, but all things considered, I think we've battled well. We've been in every game that we've played, save for the Arsenal game. And yeah, I feel positive.
Yeah, I think to get, like, a lot of Burnley fans have pointed the fixtures as a reason that we're where we are, and Sunderland and Leeds are doing as well. But beating any of these teams in the Premier League is a big achievement, and to win them games against Everton and then away at Wolves. I think it is a really strong start for Leeds. And yeah, I think they probably should stick by him, but it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. And 100% as well. Obviously, we were close to beating Bournemouth. We shouldn't have. We're literally 30 seconds away from beating Bournemouth. The unlucky header against Fulham from Gabby Goodmanson, and before
hilarious header, you mean?
Yeah. To be fair to him, it's a blinding goal. I just wish it was at the other end. But yeah, we quite easily could have found ourselves in the top half, but for a couple of just unlucky incidents. I guess when you just come up, that happens to you.
Yeah, we've found that a few times. Right, on to our next feature, which is Dave and his headline highlights.
With a limited number of past Premier League meetings between the two clubs, as we've mentioned, and no Burnley wins amongst them, we're going to cheat a little bit and widen our criteria for this week's headline highlights game and take you back to the 2015-2016 season and a match which took place at Turf Moor in April 2016. The only goal on the day came after just 58 seconds, and it was Scott Arfield who did the damage for the Clarets, who held on for the victory and 3 very valuable points. We're going to relive this match through the newspapers of the time, and we have headlines from 4 different titles which reported on the match. So first we've got a little match summary, reminder for you there. Saturday, 9th of April, Burnley 1-0 winners, that early goal from Scott Arfield. And then we're going to have headlines from the Burnley Express, the Lancashire Telegraph, the York Press, and also from the Observer as well. So kicking off with the Burnley Express, first of all, we have there's like a front page of the match section. Clarets stay top of the pile, and at bottom, it's a shame Natalie's not on this week. We've got a Meet Sam Vokes must have been, was it in the Easter break, I think, in Burnley Town Centre. And then moving on to the actual match report itself, a double-page spread we have of the match report with the headline, Clarets take care of business. We were on that fantastic run where we ended up as 23 undefeated towards the second half of the season, and that fantastic run to the title. And then on to the Lancashire Telegraph. Their headline for the match was "Winning ugly is a beautiful Burnley trait." We'd take that again on Saturday, no doubt. A 1-0 win would be fantastic. And then we had another couple of newspapers as well. First of all, we had the York Press, and just the top of that was Evans tips rivals for return to top flight. Magnanimous in defeat there, the Leeds manager. And then finally, we had the Observer. Their headline was "Arfield strikes early to soothe jitters," and a picture of his early goal there at Turf Moor. And then finally, we just had a picture of some Burnley fans from, I think it was the front page of the section on the Lancashire Telegraph celebrating the result.
Excellent. Yeah, let's hope for another 1-0 win this weekend. So, Aidan, looking ahead to that game, who are your players to watch, and who's impressed most for Leeds at the start of this season?
Yeah, I think, as I said, largely as a whole squad, I have been impressed with the start. But I think I'd probably split it out and look at those of the players that have just come up and of the new signings. I think it's difficult to not talk about Sean Longstaff. Added some real dynamism to our midfield, which we've needed because we have, as I said, I mentioned earlier about Daniel Farke changing sort of his approach this season. He switched to formation from kind of our typical 4-2-3-1 with the 10 behind the striker. He switched to a 4-3-3. Longstaff coming in and for a snippet between 10 and 12 million pounds as well has proved to be real shrewd business and a modern day bargain, I would say, in Premier League football, especially for a team coming up in our position, needing that kind of experience that he's got. Obviously got his goal against Bournemouth and the assist for that matter with the corner. So he's looked like he started really strong and settled in really, really well. Gabby Goodmanson in at left back has been nothing short of a revelation. I think different style of fullback as to what we've had typically. Last week with Junior Firpo, probably not going to get as many goals, but does get up and down the pitch as much and looks really, really kind of sure in his defending and his positioning. On times when he's found himself maybe being outpaced, he's managed to reposition himself, get the ball back, kind of get in a position where he's not been able to be beat and kind of recover there. So he's been a real standout on there. And I think of the players that probably have come up with us, I think the way that Aidan has settled in, both the fullbacks actually have been really impressive. But the way Aidan has settled in, coming up from it with us from the Championship, I think a lot of Sheffield United fans had questioned his ability to play in the Premier League when we signed him, and I think he's put those kind of discussions to bed for me early on, definitely.
Yeah, he did have a rough time of it the last time, but you think that Sheffield United side from front to back probably weren't equipped and didn't really give themselves a chance from the start. What would you deem a successful season for Leeds this year? Because I know like quite a few Leeds fans were quite bullish when they went up, but given the last couple of seasons with promoted sides, especially as a Burnley fan, I think we'd all snap your hand off for 17th place. Is that the same over in Leeds?
Look, I think any fan of any newly promoted side that says that they want to finish any higher than 17th, they're having your arm off a bit, aren't they? Like you'll take we would all take 17th, whether it's Leeds, whether it's Burnley, whether it's Sunderland. As long as you're not in the bottom three when it comes to the end of the season, you're having that, are you? Let's be honest about that. I think we've started well. As I said, I think we could be higher up the table than where we are early on. But I mean, 17th, you just want to stay in the league, don't you? Particularly given the record over the past couple of years. And I think, as mentioned earlier, I think the guide to staying up there, I think that's something that Leeds have spent a lot of kind of the ownership group and the board have spent a lot of time trying to work out how to do that essentially. And ultimately, if that results in coming fourth from bottom and not third from bottom or lower, I think we're happy.
Yeah, I think we've probably had the same experience there, haven't we, Dave? I think the only time we've managed to stay up the first season is when we've spent the 7 years there. All the other times we've gone up, we've gone straight back down. So yeah, staying up that first time is huge. Right. What's next, Dave? This week's ref. Who have we got in the middle this week?
Well, this Saturday will be a tale of two Tims. Burnley won 6 out of 6 games that Bognor Regis-based official Tim Robinson took charge of. They were between 2016 and 2023. But it was 7th time unlucky for the Clarets when we lost 3-1 away to Liverpool at Anfield with him in charge. That was in February 2024. He did keep his red cards in his pocket for all 7 of those previous matches, but showed 16 yellow cards to Burnley players and 13 to our opponents. The other Tim this weekend is Timothy Wood, a name I've not heard too much previously, and he's the video assistant referee.
No, I can't say I've heard of him either. Right, before we give our score predictions, we've got Rich again with his preview of this weekend.
So obviously looking forward to Leeds tomorrow. It's a huge game, similar to what Sunderland at home was. You kind of feel this is one of our, it is a winnable game. You don't like to say it's must win at this stage of the season, but it does have a that feel to it in a way. Was you look back at those Liverpool and United games and really disappointing as well as we played and how unlucky we was to be only sitting on 4 points and not 6. So, but Leeds have made a really good start. I watched them against Tottenham and I thought first half they were the better team. We were unlucky to lose that game if I'm being honest. Held Newcastle to a draw, got a couple of good wins as well. Battered Wolves at Wolves away. Like I mentioned just in the previous video, I'd like us to go back to kind of like 4-3-3. I'd like to see a midfield 3 of Ogachokwu, Luis and Cullen, and kind of like with Anthony and Shuana out wide. Obviously we'll see if Foster's fit, whether they're going to play Brozier. I'd like to personally see Ekdal come back into the team, but we'll see. And then Walker just shift out to the right. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully be a really good atmosphere at Turf Moor. It's always a big game when Burnley play Leeds. So yeah, fingers crossed. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Burnley.
Thanks again, Rich. Always good to hear from you. Right then, I'll start with our guest. Obviously, Dave's already got on to before the games from last season where they were both tight affairs, especially that one at Turf Moor. Do you expect similar this time, or do you think the styles will gel a bit differently with the way that both sides have probably changed the way that they are playing this season?
Interesting to see, really. I'm not quite sure whether Daniel Farke might look to go with it being kind of the two teams that came up together, the two best teams, obviously last season in the Championship coming up together. Whether he might look to revert back to kind of the higher possession style, shorter passing, trying to keep control of the ball, maybe trying to control the game. If he does that, I could see it being tight. I could see it being tight either way, to be honest. I personally am going for a 1-0. I think it'll be 1-0 Leeds. I think defensively, you were built on defence last season, and extremely strong and good at it. By far the best team in the Championship defensively. Perhaps would have been us if we didn't have Elan Meslier in goal, but that's another story. But yeah, I think you've lost Egan Riley, probably kind of key member of your back four from last season, which probably will have an effect on the game. I think he was quite strong against us in both games. Yeah, I'm going 1-0, but I think it'll be tight.
Do you see any threats in the Burnley side? What do you think? Obviously, you should know Aidan Anthony quite well.
Do you want me to say Aidan Anthony? Is that? He's been good, hasn't he? I didn't see that one coming. I can't lie about that. He's been brilliant. Look, I wish him well. He came on loan to us, and he was a top lad for us. Great player. Obviously, went through a difficult year, losing his mum that year that he was on loan for us. Handled it with extreme professionalism. Came across as a great human being, but it's just, unfortunately, found himself playing in the position of the Championship Player of the Year that year, Crescencio Somerville. And that was just a bad luck at the time. He's not a bad player. I think he's shown that certainly at Championship level, he's a top player. In the Premier League with Bournemouth, he's been more than capable. And getting that run, obviously, Scott Parker trusts him, puts a lot of sort of the attacking move through, and it feels like maybe he's found a home at Turf Moor finally. And yeah, he's been impressive. I can't lie. I think I've said I'm trying to find a way of getting into my fantasy team at the moment. But
yeah. What about you, Dave? How do you see it playing out? And then, is there any news from the press conference today? Because I think there were doubts over Foster and obviously a couple of updates with Connor Roberts. Got an update?
Yeah, I think Connor Roberts has had a setback. He's out for a little bit longer. Lyle Foster, they're not 100% sure about. I think it might just be like a dead leg. He might shake that off. Might be all right. I don't know. But yeah, I think he tends to keep his cards fairly close to his chest, as Scott Parker in his press conferences, certainly with regards to player availability and injury. I think there's been managers in the past who've been a lot more open with that. He tends to kind of keep his cards close to his chest, so we can't read too much into that, I don't think. But in terms of the game itself, I think I agree with Aidan to some extent. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a better game than it was in January. It can't be any worse than that 0-0 that we had. That was a dreadful game and not very good advert for Championship football. I think, yeah, it could be a goal either way, or maybe a 1-1. Maybe it's heart and head again, isn't it? I think Burnley are capable of getting a win, but it will be a narrow win if we do. I can't see us scoring 2 or 3 goals and running away with it. We very much take a 1-0 win, but I've a niggling feeling it might be a 1-1 draw. Hedging my bets there a little
bit. Do you see any personnel changes? Obviously, we've had this back five, which you could see working in some of the games, but clearly didn't have the same impact at Villa. And again, like Aidan said, with the fact that we're playing another side that's come up, do you think we'll revert back to what we've done previously, and any other changes you'd make to the side? Obviously, Ugo Chukwu came on, scored the goal, and was probably a bit of a miss in that game and in the Forest game. Would you make any changes?
I think he's perhaps unlikely to change the system, and I think it seems like he's sticking with that. Yeah, you mentioned about Ugo Chukwu. I think he may well be back into the side. That's an option. And as you say, it might depend on the injury situation. There was a doubt over Aidan Anthony as well, wasn't there? That's kind of a little bit of a question mark as well. So it might be one where it's a case of if players aren't 100%, bringing a few changes into the side, but I think they'll be more likely to be forced change. I think if he wanted to, or if he could, he'd be more likely to keep the same team. But yeah, it might be his hands forced a little bit on that.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. You never quite know after an international break, do you, what you're going to get. I'm also going to go for a tight 1-0 win, and I'm going to just throw a random one out there and say Zian Fleming's going to come on and score a free kick. Anyway, we'll see. I think I get quite good odds on that one. Right. Any other business, Dave, this week?
No, nothing more to report from me. I think it's just a case of back down to business. I mean, it's been a little bit stop-start, hasn't it, so far this season with the international breaks. We've had a couple so far, and we've got another one to come. So I think once that's out of the way, it's a little bit more of a clear run, and then into, obviously, Christmas and festive periods, not that far away. But yeah, it's just a case of another run of games. We've got the Leeds game. We've got Wolves away after that. I think that's the following Sunday, isn't it? So, yeah, 2 very important games coming up, and we'll be hoping to get some points on the board.
Would you call them must-win games, Dave?
I certainly wouldn't. No, I'm loath to use must-win in October or even in November and December. So yeah, it's a long way off must-win just yet.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll be very much struggling if we don't win at least one of these next 2 games. But yeah, I knew the answer to that when I asked you the question. Anyway, right. Thanks to Dave as ever for pulling the great content together for tonight's episode. And thanks to our Leeds fan Aidan for his insight. And I'll see him in the office on Monday morning. I'm sure one of us will be happier than the other.
I'll be hiding.
Yeah, I hope so. We normally wish the opposition fans well for the rest of the season, but I think I'll make an exception for this one this week. But most of all, thank you, the listeners. Make sure to send us your predictions for the game on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, and get Turf Moor bouncing for this week's massive game. Natalie will be back next week with the analysis team to review all the goings on at Turf Moor. Until then, up the Clarets.
Go on, Leeds.
The No Nay Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The analysis show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonaynever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.